Well, the advantages and disadvantages of these types of foods are pretty much what we've already spoken about. The disadvantage of a grain-based food is that you run the risk of having a grain with a gluten that's going to cause a problem. Other than that, I can't see a disadvantage in a grain-based food. In fact, I prefer to use grain in specific manufacturing situations because I can get a more dense food, I can get a better nutrient ratio, a better nutrient profile out of the grain than I can with a grain-free. The advantage of using a grain-free food is that you get away from the grain and the potential contamination of gluten, but the corollary to that is that you're then relying on an empty starch source to come in. Something like tapioca, for example, is just pure starch and it doesn't contribute anything else. And when we're talking about these high-profile diets, we have a real struggle to find enough room in the kilogram of food to pack all the nutrients that we need to get into the food in the right proportions relative to the energy density. It becomes it's a really difficult task. And the more concentrated the food becomes, the greater this problem becomes. So there's no room for ingredients that don't pull their weight, for want of a better way of explaining it. The other problem that we have with grain-free foods that we tend to have to turn to the pulses as protein and carbohydrate contributors. And with that, you end up running the risk of having too many phytonutrients or detrimental, adverse phytonutrients in the diet. All plant ingredients produce phytochemicals. And they are the sorts of chemicals that plants secrete to protect themselves against insect attack and what have you. The major one of concern for us with grain-free food is phytoestrogen. And there's all sorts of horror stories through the years of what phytoestrogen has caused and possibly could cause. The one that the story I remember most fondly dates back to the 1960s when a particular breed of subterranean clover was developed and for feeding of sheep, and some wethers were fed on this woodgenella clover, and they actually started lactating, producing milk. So that was because the woodgenella clover had elevated levels of phytoestrogen. So there's a bit of a danger. The one that we see at the moment in the grain-free thing is peas seem to be pilloried. In actual fact, peas are quite low in phytoestrogen. If you were to look at something like a vegetable like broccoli, for example, it's got twice the level of phytoestrogen in it than what peas have. Peas are very low on the list. Perhaps the highest one on the list would be soybeans, without doubt. They're huge. Peas, I think, are around about 40 micrograms per 100 grams, whereas soybeans, I think, are something like 2,000 micrograms. It's a huge difference in that. Flaxseed is another strong contributor of phytoestrogen. And the risk with a grain-free food is that we end up with too many of these plant-based ingredients that cumulative add phytoestrogen, which then lodges on the estrogen receptor sites in the body and act as a disruptor to the actual animal's estrogen level. And that, in some animals, can cause a breeding problem. For most animals, it's fine, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of research or work to suggest that this is an ongoing issue, although anecdotally a lot of people report, a lot of breeders have been known to report problems with pea-based diets, but the work that science doesn't support the anecdotal evidence that peas were the actual culprit. And I think you'll find on closer research that it's a cumulative effect rather than an individual effect from one particular ingredient. But yeah, that's one of the things to watch out for with grain-free foods.